Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of
of the
America,
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Some of us have done the Pledge of Allegiance. Others of you are still working on it. When you've finished, sit down, then we'll know you're finished. Was everybody unmuted, Mel?
Yes.
All right. We've completed the Pledge of Allegiance. And we will move on to our presentations. And tonight we have SWBR and Campus Construction with us. So you may take over.
Hi, everybody. This is Kevin with Campus. Steve, I'll get started with an update and then you can jump in when you see fit, okay?
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Okay. I'm going to try to share my pictures. That work? Is that on everyone's screen?
Yes, mine.
Okay. I just wanted to share. Some of you may have seen these. They were updated as of last Friday, but starting with a progress update and to just show a little bit of the progress that's been made even since your last tour. This is the front of the building at the stairwell that runs off the front lobby up to the media center. I think when the group toured, we were still working on some tile and railings. You can see that's progressed a little bit. Here's new tile up the wainscot. The next one's kind of boring. It's just a new fire alarm panel. Here's a good one, the gymnasium. So you can see the finished paint, and that's the final coat of finish is on the floor. So it looks really good. It's got a nice sheen on it right now. You can see that the last two components of work in this space are the wall pads, and they'll run the perimeter, as you see where my arrow is, all the way around. And then there's a wrestling mat lift system that gets installed off the structural steel. The lift is on site, however, it's not installed, and the mats are scheduled to start being installed this week. So once those are wrapped up, we're virtually in a punch list phase for the gymnasium, which is good news and good progress.
Are you saying that the wrestling mats then hang on the wall?
They do. They hang from a what I would call like a joist system or a pulley system, so you can raise and lower them. But they set up in the air out of the occupant's way and to not take up floor real estate. So it's a nice system. Next is the second floor media center. You can see this is the reception desk. It does have a little book slot right here. And then the carpet is installed. I don't think the carpet or this desk was installed when the group went through. So that space is really taking shape. And then outside the building, this is the interior side of the bus loop. This is a bioretention area where some of the stormwater drainage collects. And you see all these little plantings. There's several hundred plantings that go in there that help filter the stormwater, so it's more environmentally friendly. And then lastly, outside, this is the north end at the new parent drop-off. These guys were just pouring the foundation walls for the ramp. They still have to install the ramp itself, the flat work, and then there's curbing, granite curbing that goes through this radius, and then of course binder and top coat. So that's all ongoing. They're working on it this week. Other highlights, I know it was already pretty far along, but the third and second floor are virtually 100% fitted out. The first floor was the furthest behind, but moving from south to north, the locker rooms are done with the exception of the corridor doors. We do still need to address the flooring in the ELA rooms across the hall from the locker rooms. Gymnasiums, I went through as close to done. All the corridors look pretty well. They do need a nice cleaning though. There's still a lot of stage material in there.
Is anyone
Um,
else stuck
yes.
on the swale?
Excuse me?
Is anyone else's computer stuck on the swale or is it just mine?
Oh, no, I'm done. I don't have any other pictures.
Oh, okay.
No,
Thank
I just started talking. I'm sorry.
Okay, I thought I was supposed to see something.
No,
Excuse me.
I only had the 6 photos. I wanted to just get started, but the rest of the verbal update for the first floor, the auditorium is lagging the furthest behind. Although the tile installer is mobilized, they're pre-cutting the tile. We're expecting to see our first tile on the wall tomorrow. So painting overhead is about 90%. Painting should be done by the end of the week. Got to do the tile work, the flooring, and then the seat. Right now on the schedule, the seating is due to arrive the end of the first week of December. So seating and stage work will be towards the tail end. Big picture, we do still have December 28th in sights. We think substantial completion is still achievable to meet the end of the year. So any questions on progress? I'm trying to unshare this. Oh, share. Okay, there we go. In terms of the budget, we issued a monthly report last week. The budget is holding up. There is still a contingency for all the work under contract. We still think the budget is appropriate to get us to the finish line. There is an opportunity that we're learning about and we're trying to facilitate for the district. There could be some funding freed up to add to that contingency. And one of the big packages that we're working with SWBR to put a bid package together is for to enhance the acoustics in the gymnasium. So it's well over the bidding threshold. It's not something we can do via change order. So we're literally putting a mini bid package together to go out to bid. The work won't be done by the end of the year, but if funding is truly available, it's a nice add to that gymnasium to address the acoustics. It would be bid in early December and awarded probably the first meeting in January. Then materials would be ordered and it would go in, towards the middle to the end of winter. So something we're trying to plan to see if we can get it into the project and if dollars and time allows. Any other questions on budget or specifics to the budget?
Not on the budget, but on the gymnasium.
Yeah.
Are we putting, I don't know what you call them, but baskets around the lights and the windows? So prevent breakage from balls being thrown?
Steve?
Yeah, this is Steve Rebholz. There are guards that go over the windows and the lights that were selected, are suitable for gymnasium. So I'll check on the particulars about that, and I'll get back to Mike and team about the lights on the gym. But the windows do have guards. I would like to add a little bit more, if it's okay, about the gymnasium acoustics. Some may remember that when the project was going through the redesign stage to deal with the budget challenges, there was a product called K13 that was in a portion of the gymnasium, and we took advantage of a credit on not installing that. That product did have some acoustic benefits, and what we're finding is that really the amount of hard surfaces in that gymnasium are make the need to treat the acoustics very important. I think Mike Pullen and team have made that very clear. So we have been working with campus to design a solution, a more comprehensive solution. That's the one that we're talking about getting out to bid. So it is important to know that back when the project was originally designed, it had some modest acoustic improvements, but these ones that are being proposed are more comprehensive. And we hope we'll address those concerns very well. We did have an acoustician, do a study so that we could identify the amount of sound reduction that this treatment will create. So yeah, we hope to know much more about the actual pricing and bids. And then, yeah, we'll have to look and work with the district about the appropriate source of funds for that work. So that's a little bit more about the gymnasium acoustics.
Could I ask another question? Having
Sure.
to do with the gym and the auditorium. In the more normal times, they hold dances or did hold dances in the gym. Is there enough electricity or enough outlets to plug in electronics, and the same in the auditorium for productions like musicals? And
Yeah, so on the gym, I'm not sure, so I'm going to have to get back to you on that. It makes sense that there would be sufficient outlets for the kind of normal, multi-purpose use in the gym, but let me get an answer to that. With respect to the auditorium, you're talking not so much about dances, but more about productions and performances, and there are, stage curtains and a stage sound system, so the power is there to support those types of productions. But
great, thank you.
we can definitely give more information if folks want to look into the details of that.
It's just a critical. It's a critical part of a middle school and any school to have productions and activities for at least middle school kids that they can have a dance and so on.
Oh yeah, no, I like that idea.
Yeah.
John, this is Dave Phelps with SWBR. There is a sound system. You can see the speakers in the upper portion of the middle picture there.
Oh yeah.
So there is a sound system in the gymnasium. And then there is new lighting, as Steve mentioned, curtains and sound system, but there is also new lighting going in the auditorium that will achieve the theatrical look you're looking for. I believe you're discussing.
And do they have a folding door in the middle so that you could break apart a gym class?
There's a fold down curtain, a
Okay.
roll down curtain. It's not a door. It's similar to what was there
Good.
originally. Or
Yeah.
prior.
John, thank you. I was gonna go back to that. I failed to mention earlier, there is a curtain scheduled to go in down the middle of that gymnasium.
Yeah, the doors are a liability. Curtains are much better.
That is correct.
Thank you.
May I ask if we're looking for the acoustical issue to have not be completed until late winter, what does that do to our schedule for getting into that building?
Yeah, I think that's an important thing for the entire team to discuss. I mean, technically, the space is occupiable, but as Mike Pullen has pointed out, that the use of the space will be challenged without the acoustic treatment in terms of just a lot of kids and the noise that are generated. So we will definitely need to work with the team to understand that, to what degree is it compromising the program such that you would either occupy or not occupy the gym. I should also mention, and I think these have been discussed at previous meetings, some of the change order work does involve components that have lead times that are extending beyond the end of the year. We're working with everyone to try to shorten those lead times as much as possible, but those they're kind of isolated areas around the building where those components will have work going on after the date that Kevin mentioned. So I think it's important to to keep our eyes on that. And I know campus very specifically has been identifying each one of those items and really working hard to pin down the exact lead time. So I think that's important to know as well.
So December 28th then is not a real figure.
Well, it's real in that the work that's currently under contract is going to be finished, but these are these change order pieces. And so, yes, I think, to be upfront about it, there's going to need to be select work that will happen beyond that date. And the decisions about, the schedule will need to be to understand the exact nature of that work and its impact on the use of the building. So the answer sounds a little circuitous, but each one of these, some are small and some are less small. One of the ones that's sticking out right now for all of us is at the main office and the main entrance to the north end of the building. So that's an important one for us to keep our eye on.
Well, and Steve, just to piggyback in on that, Cinda, we're going to be bringing some information to the board for the December 8th board meeting as well to talk about the sound attenuation package. And we're probably going to have some critical conversations about, our plan, a contingency plan and a backup for that should we run into any further delays. So as you heard Kevin mention earlier, a critical pathway for this job being completed is the auditorium. And right now we're not where we need to be in terms of the schedule with the auditorium. And we're working through that. And a group of us are going to meet tomorrow on site to go over a couple of different options or a couple of different pathways rather, I guess, to talk particulars. But I think between December 8th and the end of the year, collectively, the district's going to have a conversation about what we're thinking in terms of what's reasonable and whether we'd move in during the 21 school year or we're waiting until 2021, 2022. That's a real conversation that's going to probably be coming up really quickly, unfortunately.
What was the holdup in the office?
So this is Steve Rebholz again. It's a fire rated borrowed light frame that's necessary to have the vision from the office to the entranceway. The frame that was identified was not fire rated. The frame that was identified on the drawings was not fire rated. We discovered this late, and so that frame is being ordered. There are workarounds to that, but the reality is that visibility from the main office to that entrance is an important part of the single point secure entrance. And so, really pinning down that lead time, will it arrive and can it be installed by December 28th or exactly when is very much a function of this whole ordering process. And as we sit here today, we don't have that delivery date. And I know that the team is pressing for that, but we simply don't have it right now to report that that's a slam dunk for that substantial completion. So that's one item. There's similar spread out items, but that's one that I think really, that's a feature that would be harder to work around than other things where you can imagine coming in after hours and changing out a particular component. So that's just the analysis that has to be done on each and every one of these items.
Board members, do you have questions?
Cinda, I have
Yes,
three.
Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, actually, I think Steve just kind of addressed the one with the window. I'd like to go back, though. I'm looking at the executive summary, Kevin and Steve. And it said about in October, the slab topping in the ELA room was having some moisture issues. Has that been resolved?
It's underway right now. They actually the general contractor has to take out that topping and put a mitigation barrier down. So they started the removal last week. It's not going well. It's going pretty slow. So right now they're chasing down different equipment to try to, remember they installed a 2-inch concrete topping on the slab that was there. And that's what I'm talking about. That's got to come out, be mitigated and then put back. So it's underway, but it's going slow.
Do you see that impacting our 28th December date?
I certainly hope not. It's only 2 small spaces. I think the contractor will figure out the right machine and tools to get it out. And I think it could be poured back in, cleared out, and then finished. We're certainly pressing for the 28th, and it seems very doable.
Okay, second question is on the windows. We're gonna put a bid out for the windows, so that's gonna extend into what? Is that something we're gonna do through the winter, or is that gonna be in the summer, or? what's
Yeah,
the
so
latest?
it's
Go ahead.
actually out right now. And we're expected to receive bids by November 17th. There will be work in that package extending out into the winter for sure. A lot of the trim repairs and things of that nature. But the two critical scopes in there that we do have to chase down and expedite is there's rescue window stickers. Those got to be placed on the, all the rescue windows. And then there's latches that they're like stop latches. And those have to be installed too to occupy the building. So those have a shorter lead time. We think we can get those in as in a timely fashion. But to answer your question specifically, yes, there will be repair work going through the winter on those windows.
Okay, my last question is actually not on the middle school, but on the high school. As I remember reading through the schedule now, those punch items are going to be completed. At least the plan is to complete them over the Thanksgiving break.
Yeah, there's the punch list for sure. The two components that we're still working through is there's some rejected work over there on the outside aluminum panels. Those will not likely be done over Thanksgiving break because I think we have some material issues there. And then the new high school corridor fire doors, they're just arriving this week. If you remember, they were supposed to arrive last week, but they didn't. They're supposed to be on site Friday. And we're working through an install plan with the district to do those second shift. But I think there's 6 or 8 of them, and it might extend a little bit past Thanksgiving.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Mhm. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Okay, enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
We'll move on in the agenda to reports. Melissa and Christy are reporting on the elementary school. I believe.
Hi, everyone. We have a really strong team with us tonight. You'll see everybody here, including Megan Penikoff, Dawn McIntyre, Adam Bishop, Christy Graves, Lucia Copeland, Joanna Samar, and Caitlin Wozlewski, as well as Sarah Patterson. We're excited about this group of teachers that you see before you because they represent a wide swath of staff roles at the elementary school. They have many varied years of experience. Some of them are teaching hybrid right now. Others are teaching virtually. Some teach classrooms, other ones intervention, in person. We have learning coaches. So we're excited about the representation and leadership at the elementary school that's joining us and that worked on this plan. So we wanted to start by talking about where we've been. Over the past few years, we have worked really hard at building a learning communities at the school, so PLCs we call them, and the Tier 1 meeting schedule is an adjustment to our structure, but it's also an adjustment to our teacher leadership roles, and a group of professionals have taken on the facilitation roles in these meetings, and the meetings have improved year by year as we see them focus more and more on student needs and data and instructional conversations. Responsive classroom, we began about 2.5 years ago, and our goal was to have all teachers trained in this method of classroom management, and we are achieving that with about 95% accuracy at this point, that staff are using this management system that's basically built on developing respectful relationships between the adults and the students and between the students. And then we also have ongoing professional development led by the folks that you're here with tonight. These are many of our presenters, and they also do the job of kind of soliciting what our professional development needs are in the building. And lastly, over the last 15 months, we have implemented the Ames Web Plus benchmark and progress monitoring system that really structure those Tier 1 meetings around student learning and student data and help us to be even more student focused in our work.
So where are we now? This year has
has proven to be like no other. We have been faced with what seems like an insurmountable task. With that said, we have spent the first 2.5 months of school being responsive to the academic and social emotional needs of our students and their families. We've been striving for relevance with our instructional models and curriculum implementation in both the hybrid and remote learning platforms. And we're continuing to build relationships with and focus on building relationships with all stakeholders. Another part of where we are now is digging into the current academic levels of our students. Despite the unique times, we continue to strive for high levels of proficiency for all students in math and reading. Our desired results for the 2020-21 school year is that 90% of our students will be proficient in both reading and math on the Ames Web benchmarking assessment tool. And you will see that here in the grid. As you may know, we give this assessment to all students K through 4 3 times per year, fall, winter, and spring. We use that data to inform our instruction around foundational reading and math skills, such as letter naming fluency, letter word sound fluency, oral reading fluency, vocabulary development, computation fluency, and number sense. When looking at comparative data from last fall to this fall, so you'll see in the first column last fall's data compared to this fall's data, you will see that we have a lot to celebrate. The arrows will show you cohort data that helps us compare where students were last year compared to where they are this year. Most cohorts in ELA increased in proficiency. For example, our 3rd grade cohort went from 51% proficient to 65% proficient. We also saw an increase in math in grade 1, where last fall they were 45% proficient and now they're 49% proficient. We did notice a significant dip with our current grade 1 cohort in ELA, but I do want to point out that the assessment changes between kindergarten and 1st grade, getting significantly more challenging, and we really feel that this is the reason for this decrease. The plan we will present tonight was created with our students and staff in mind, and we think that it's a clear map of goals and action steps to guide our work this year as a learning community.
The first goal focuses on curriculum development and professional learning. We want to increase student engagement by challenging and bringing excitement to the learning process in order to maximize the potential of every student. Our students and staff will use social emotional learning strategies in the classroom, including self-management and interpersonal skills to establish and maintain positive relationships. We will also continue to improve the effectiveness of student-focused team meetings in order to strengthen learning and instructional best practices. Our first action step in order to meet this goal is to implement consistent Tier 1 instruction across the grade levels. In ELA, we're using the Collaborative Classroom Program, UPK through 4, as well as grades 5 and 6. SIPS is our intervention program. Haggerty we're using for phonemic awareness, UPK through 1st grade. Foundations we're using for phonics, UPK through 2nd grade. And Math Expressions is our math program, UPK through 4th grade.
Each week, grade level teams meet for Tier 1 meetings. These meetings focus on student learning and growth. And during these weekly meetings, grade levels review data such as Ames Web data, Math Expressions unit assessments, and writing assessments and rubrics. Grade levels make data-informed decisions and discuss how the information from these assessments will drive their instruction moving forward. Tier 1 facilitators have been named for each grade level, and these facilitators receive training. This meeting model has helped to promote consistency across grade levels, as each grade level facilitator uses the same agenda format and submits weekly minutes. There is consistency with what type of data is being discussed to promote instructional best practice. We also have been focused on building consistency and aligning our progress monitoring through the use of the K4 academic data file. Within the academic data file, all grade levels are able to house the scores of assessments given, such as Ames Web, Math Expressions unit assessments, and independent reading levels. We also use the literacy benchmark reference chart, which lists the expectations for independent reading levels, as well as oral reading fluency. This promotes consistency across the grade levels with what reading level is considered to be on grade level, above grade level, or below grade level for each marking period of the school year. The reference chart also charts the expected oral reading fluency for students at each grade level, which is based on the Ames-Webb Oral Reading Fluency Assessment. This provides consistency for teachers with how many words per minute a student should be reading at each reporting period throughout the school year. These tools have helped us to develop entry and exit thresholds for intervention services, as well as to develop progress reports for intervention services.
Our second goal is about community engagement, and we're really trying to foster strong relationships with our NRWE community. We are celebrating students and staff with powerful memories such as Cubby Club and positive referrals. And our action steps for this are the parent and board liaison. We are using these to strengthen two-way communication between our school, our families, and the community. We are also trying to build continuity and shared vision with student support systems such as our MTSS system. And we want to bring social emotional learning in as our focus. And we did that throughout the first 2 weeks of school when we really made social emotional learning the center of what we were doing. And we are continuing with that through our positivity project as well as with collaborative classroom.
The third goal in our school improvement plan focuses on multi-tiered systems of support. Under this goal, we will improve outcomes for identified students at weekly Tier 2 and Tier 2+ meetings. We will encourage the use of evidence-based practices in instruction and interventions. And we will progress monitor using Ames-Webb and Mastery Test from our Tier 1 curriculum that was previously discussed in our first goal. This data will be used at the tiered meetings to identify students in need of additional supports.
So our action steps for our MTSS goal is to continue creating and implementing our academic and behavior support plans. And we want to base these on targeted analysis. We hope to include or plan to include student ownership and self-reflection pieces. We want to use a variety of staff to serve as case managers, and we plan to monitor and review these plans regularly. We also plan to use function-based thinking strategies at that Tier 1 level and continue to implement our quality Tier 1 curriculum, including the flexible content that teachers have been creating and making sure that we are using active engagement strategies and discussion protocols.
Our fourth goal is finance, which is very important now due to the pandemic. The building administration is working with teacher leaders, making sure that our allocated resources align with student success, which is a major part of our strategic action plan. We need to allocate our human resources to make sure that we are providing interventions and opportunities to students to succeed to the best of their abilities. And we need to timely plan our learning initiatives and make sure that our budget is working correctly to make sure that we can teach our students the best that we can. And the administration is continually training and communicating with teacher leaders and staff to make sure that we are being fiscally responsible when ordering our supplies for the students and the staff to teach.
Thank you. We wanted to include a photograph of what teaching and learning can include right now. Even though it's a different day, we're still focused on the kids and making sure that they're engaged with their learning. I'm pretty excited that Carly's with us too as well. Just happened to include her photograph there. Any questions?
Yeah, I do. Over the course of the year, we've had a dramatic turnaround in what education is, unfortunately. What results have you seen as far as your groups are concerned or your test data that COVID has had on that, or the virtual learning versus the in-school learning What changes has happened that you've seen?
I would kind of direct you back to that chart that Christy shared right in the beginning. The largest impact to the negative we saw was with our youngest learners
Okay.
transitioning from K to 1. But
Yes.
that's a really tricky measure. As we included at the very bottom there, you can see in kindergarten, we're measuring things like letter naming and letter sounds. But in first grade, the data is a little bit skewed for us in the fall because it jumps right to oral reading. So we didn't necessarily get that great transition we would have hoped for at the end of kindergarten face-to-face. And so the data there is obviously a little disappointing.
And how's that going now with a year under our belt, or almost a year?
I would say it's affected all of our thinking and our planning. The consistency of instruction in ELA specifically and shifting those programs has been really important this fall. So we introduced Integrity UPK through 1 to address those beginning reading learning skills. And we also adjusted our foundation scope to go right to 2nd grade so that we're doing systematic phonics instruction right up to 2nd grade. So I think those things were planned long range, but at the same time, their implementation with fidelity right now is more important than ever. And it's also affected how our virtual teachers, how they prioritize their time with students. And Lucia in particular, who's with us, teaches our kindergarten virtual group, and Sarah teaches our UPK virtual learners. And so they've taken those programs, and they're experts in their field, to the students online on a daily basis.
I also have to ask you, what is a function-based thinking strategy?
I think Christy would probably be the best to answer this.
Okay, Christy.
So we've done a lot of training over the last year around this piece. And so basically, in a nutshell, it's getting to the root cause of a behavior. So, you know, often when you see a misbehavior, you want to react and kind of deal with that behavior. But that, unfortunately, is only going to have a short-term return. So you really need to get to the root cause of what's causing the behavior. And if you can adjust and adapt and focus on that piece, you're more likely to see that long-term impact.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have
Yes,
one question.
I just wanted to make a comment at this point. Board members were involved with presentations at the New York State School Board Convention a week or so ago. And in listening to your presentation, I'm struck by how you have focused in on some of the areas that they had put forward in terms of social emotional learning and dealing with root cause of behavior. You know, all of those things were touched on as powerful and beneficial things. So my compliments.
Thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, Melissa, but what percentage of your population at North Rose Elementary is doing virtual training? Totally virtual or solely virtual?
It varies by grade level, and I'm not sure I'm the best one to answer that question.
We have about 100 students, give or take. So I'd say about 1/3 of our population.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to ask about the math proficiency here. There were some, out of 4, 3 had decreased. Are there, with your benchmarks and your evaluations, are there particular areas that our kids are falling down in, or is it a general math ability? What's causing it? You know?
That's a really good question. Adam Bishop and I actually had the same conversation today. Adam, did you want to weigh in on that?
I think the test is a brand new thing. Every year it gets more difficult, obviously, as it should. But I think we've noticed that the students aren't understanding the test completely. So we've done a lot of work in the past week with my teaching assistant, creating some assignments and practice skills that the students can actually see and understand what they're taking the test as, because I don't think it's necessarily a math deficiency. I think it's more of a test understanding skill.
Second through fourth grade takes the test by themselves on the computer for math. So the computer-based testing obviously would be different for most of us. And to that end, different for our teachers. And so preparing our students is something that we have to specifically address and work at. It's not something that we all learned. So I think that's part of it too. And I would like to remind you that because of the way the year ended, we only gave this as a benchmark twice before we departed. So truly, this was our third experience with that assessment.
I have a quick question about that in terms of the math assessment. Do you think that the wording of some of the items that are on the test or the complexity of the language contributes to some of that too, the struggles?
I would agree with that for sure. That reading is more a part of math than it ever has been before.
Anyone else have any questions? Well, I want to thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. We have a good understanding of what's going on in that elementary school. And I especially want to thank all you teachers for helping out and giving us the information as you are right there in the trenches doing the work. So fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you and have a good evening.
Cinda, can I ask for one adjustment to our presentation schedule? Just noticing we have 2 middle school students.
Yeah.
Would you mind if we went with Carly and Alston next and then went to the Board of Education Handbook Committee, just given the time frame that they've been on?
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Thank you. Good night, teachers and elementary principals.
Thank you. Good night.
So Mark, I don't know if you want to introduce your students to us or not.
Hi, sure, everybody. I'm very proud to introduce Carly Sutton. She's our 5th grader. She was recommended by our teachers to report to you on how she's been doing so far this year, how the year is going. And we have another superstar, Alston Anaya Hernandez, who was recommended by his teachers to come and speak to you tonight and report back from the students' perspective how things were going. So I'm happy to introduce Here's Carly first.
Great.
Go ahead, Carly.
Hello, my name is Carly Sutton. I'm currently enrolled at Rose-Wolcott Middle School as a 5th grader. At school, I am involved in gym, soccer, band, and playwriting class. I am excited to share with you that the school year is going very well with my hybrid learning. Monday through Wednesday, I virtual learn and attend school on Thursdays and Fridays. This year has been challenging, but I really like the smaller class size. I feel like it's easier to learn with less students in the room. Another thing I really like is how my assignments are presented for my virtual days. It's easy to understand what my assignments are and when they're due. As I transition from one building to the next, I'm looking forward to the newly remodeled building. I'm also looking forward to having classrooms that are designed for middle school students. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you very much. Nice night.
We're glad things are going so well for you. And we're glad you're finding success with the virtual learning.
And now, Alston, are you still here, Alston?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, here he comes. Alston Anaya Hernandez.
Okay, hello, my name is Alston, and I am currently enrolled at NRW Middle School as an 8th grader. At school, I'm involved in band and I play the trumpet. I am excited to share with you of how the staff and teachers have been great and support all their students as much as they can. And they really care about their students because they help each and every one of them try their hardest. This year it has been challenging, but I'd like to really share that the teachers really care about their students and that they help them in any way. Even when the students need help on a Zoom or they need help with their class, they hop on a Zoom and they help each other. As I transition from one building to the next, I am looking forward to seeing everything and seeing how people have been doing. And I'm looking forward to helping my school by being nice and helping all the staff and students. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Alston, are you having experience now, or is that on hold?
What?
Are you playing your trumpet in band now, or is band on hold?
So we're practicing with our instruments in class, but we have to stay 12 feet apart.
Ah,
Oh.
wonderful. I'm glad you're keeping it up. Good. And I'm glad you also are having a good experience. It's certainly a lot of kudos for teachers there. Board members, do you have anything you'd like to say to the community?
Just to comment that both students have been, it's been great to hear what you had to say and to offer. And it sounds like you're having a great experience in doing the most under some challenging conditions. So congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to both students. I'm so glad to hear that our teachers are making contact with you and doing a good job, and you perceive that and see that. I think that's valuable for the teachers to know that as well. So not only you're receiving input, but they are too, which is a great thing. Thank you very much to both of you.
Great, thank you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you.
Paul has a question.
Yeah, I have a question for Carly. Carly, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, you mentioned that you were really pleased about this class size. You had the smaller class size. About how many students are in your class at any given time?
Most of the time we have about 10 to 11 students in our classroom. Before the pandemic, we had around 19 to 20 students. And I like that now because the room is more focused when there's less students in the room and less confusion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And we wish you continued success as the year progresses. Thank you, Mr. Matthews, for bringing.
Aren't they great? Aren't they
kids to
wonderful?
us. Yes, they are.
Thank you.
A round of applause.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you for having me. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on now to Linda and the handbook committee. You have a report, Linda?
Yes, and you all received the copy of page 5, which is the last page that we really needed to complete for the handbook, changes that we needed to put into place. Just a little background, earlier this year, we went through things that were more procedural or corrections or additions that we needed to do to the handbook that were not as time-based as page 5. Page 5 certainly is an update of what's happened since the first handbook was produced And also we needed to postpone completion of that until our new superintendent was on board. So that explains why the handbook hasn't really been in a position to be completed until now. So the reason that we sent the page 5 to you is, as a committee, we decided that we wanted you to be able to see it. And we're hoping to get the handbook put together for you to review and approve at the next meeting. One thing that we did decide that I didn't mention before when we talked was earlier in the year, when we sat down and went over things with our interim Scott Bishoping, we did decide that rather than having the handbook put together in the way it is now, that we're going to go to a 3-ring notebook, because not every page needs to be changed every time, and to produce a whole new handbook every time just seemed like an inefficient way to produce it. So that's a change. When we do have our new handbook, it will be in a binder so that any minimal changes that have to be made can be done more quickly. So we have that to look forward to at the next meeting.
Okay.
And if Tina or Paul have any comments or anything that I may have missed, join in.
Paul?
Yeah, you'll see on the goals, I'm sure you've all read them by now, that there isn't a date, but it's the understanding of both our superintendent and our handbook committee that the date is the end date for the goal. In other words, when is it due? When do we measure? And that'll be the 30th of the year. Now, in this case, it'll be the year 21, and then the expectation is we update the page in the, as we do the turnover in the summer. And so then it'll be, the end date would be June 30 of 22.
Good, thank you.
Committee, could I ask a question about the policy committee last meeting and gave a asked you to come up with the community involvement by students like we just had from the middle school students? Is that going to be addressed in a different page in the new handbook? In other words, we had talked before about not having it as a policy to have a student on the board, but to have it as in the handbook, the direct, I hate to use the suggestion that we have a monthly student group of some type come to visit and talk to the board. Is that going to be captured someplace in the new handbook? Or do we have to go back to policy?
At this point, I don't see any reason why it couldn't be added to the handbook. We would probably need to write a descriptive paragraph of what that could entail. I think it would be a very broad description, because from comments that board members have made up to this point, it sounds as if we really wanted to leave the possibilities more broadly expressed, so that anything that comes up that's a positive thing or that we would like to have included, there would be room for that.
Yeah, the good point was that if it's a policy, we have to do it. And I think that's, we would like to see it as the administration selecting groups of students who are representative of sports or of academics or anything that goes on with kids in our district to come before us and talk to us, like we just had those 2 young middle school students. So my question is it going to be captured in the handbook, or is it going to be captured as a policy that we define with a number and all?
No, that was not to be a policy. That needs to go into the handbook. And it would be another heading under the school board standard operating procedures.
Okay.
And what you want to, what you're going to put a title on that, I don't know, whether it be a student presentation or whatever, you can think about that, but I do think that that's where it needs to go.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have any problem with that. It's just that I wanted to know if we're gonna look at a handbook in December or whatever, that it will include
Right,
that particular item.
okay.
It sounds like it will, so that's great.
Can you do that, handbook committee?
We can do that, even with a Zoom, quick Zoom meeting. I'm sure we can do that. We can put that together. Yeah, because I think the consensus of the board was we did not want a policy where it's a single
Right.
person involved and so on. We've definitely addressed that together. We'll work on that. I'll get back to you.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you for picking that up, John. Anything else for the handbook committee? All right, then we will move on to the consent agenda. A motion to put the consent agenda for approval on the floor. Tina and Paul, questions? Before we do that, we do have one correction that you need to address. If you look on page 3, number 6, under appoint volunteers. Do you see the name Allison Nicole? That needs to be changed to Nicole Allison. Those two words just got confused. Okay, any discussion, questions? Paul?
Did we get the treasurer's report date changed to 10 November? Okay, this doesn't need to be pulled, I don't think, but the treasurer's report that we had attached was said, went to the board on 27 October. It didn't, it goes to the board on 10 November. Bob's nodding his head.
Are you talking about D?
Yes.
So you're saying that instead of the month September there, it should be November?
It's actually that, yes, this is the meeting it's actually coming to. So on the front of the treasurer's report, usually there's the date that it's sent for submission. This is the actual meeting where it's being accepted.
So you'll change the date.
We certainly can do that.
Cinda, did you understand now what's going on?
No, I don't.
Okay, on the treasurer's report, actually, well, right on the treasurer's report in the lower left-hand corner, it says this has been submitted to the board on a date. It says that every month.
About the report.
I'm sorry, what is it? What report is it, Bob, that we're getting today? September report. It said that it was given to the board on 27 October. That was the last meeting. It wasn't. It's given to us on this meeting.
Okay, so it's not anything incorrect.
Other than a date.
Correct. It didn't make the last meeting, so it's actually being adopted by the board here.
I understand. Thank you. Yes, okay. Yeah, no, I didn't get that. Okay, anything else? Then all in favor, I guess we can just raise our hands so I can see it. All in favor of approving? The motion is carried by unanimous consent. On page 3, we go to good news. John, Paul? You're our good news people. John, do you have any good news? Oh, we've lost John. Paul, do you have any good news?
Yeah, why don't I go first?
I think you better.
Nice article about Donna and the whole food service department. Well deserved. We've raved about her, well, not just her, of course, again, but the whole food service, the incredible job they've done through the summer and as it continues, even today. Nice little photo there about, and politically correct, it has Clyde Savannah, Lions and Red Creek and North Rose-Wolcott for athletics. And AD, are you going to talk about the soccer this Saturday?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, we're hosting the boys' first sectional game this Saturday here at our home school, and I think it's against Penn Yan. Can you correct me on that, AD? I can't remember right now.
I believe that is correct, but we are also our girls are playing on Friday at Bath Haverling as well. So the girls play Friday afternoon and the boys do host on Saturday.
But you still have, there are still restrictions on spectators?
No restrictions on spectators, unfortunately. Two participant per student athlete. So 2 spectators per student athlete. And truly one of the things that we'll try to do is stream our competition. And I believe in speaking with the Bath superintendent, they plan to stream their contest Friday as well. Unfortunately, a lot of the individual sports are being restricted to no spectators. So for example, tennis, cross country, swimming, diving, those sports are not allowing any spectators whatsoever. Yeah, I think honestly, we're in a situation where as we look around the area, unfortunately, according to the governor's, color-coded system, Monroe County is well into the yellow right now due to the spike in COVID. So that's something that they're being very cautious not to create another microcluster. It's something that, as you know, we've all been impacted by it. Melissa and her team talked about the challenges of educating in this new world where we're forced to do things in a very different fashion, and athletics is not unscathed by that in any stretch of imagination. So for our purposes, we're just pleased that we're in the sectional play. We're excited that our boys and girls teams are both representing North Rose-Wolcott, and we're going to do whatever we need to do to accommodate their needs, and hopefully wish them success well into postseason play.
Yeah, the boys are going in with a winning record of 6-3, and I'm sorry I don't have the girls' record. I know they're having a good year. So one more good news item here, actually 2 more. This is Wolcott Elks Club gave $3,500 to the North Rose-Wolcott Cougar Cupboard. I thought that was great. And then I hope Melissa, I don't see Melissa still on. This is a great photo and article that was in the Lakeshore News about from North Rose Elementary, and it was Halloween, so it was really cute. And I would like to just offer on behalf of our board and to Mike and to his team. Yeah, we had a couple cases of COVID, but you had a plan in place. You executed the plan. We went on. It was hardly a hiccup, and I just think that we should all be very proud of what this team has been able to do through this hardship.
We appreciate that very much. Definitely a team effort. Paul, I do want to stand off for a correction. We play Bishop Kearney on Saturday. We play Penn Yan if we move. I'm sorry, I misspoke. If we move on, we'll play Penn Yan. But I think that the group of teachers, administrators, certainly family members, it's taken a lot to get us to where we are. But I'm very thankful for what we have in place, because I know that there are plenty of districts around us that are going through similar experiences or not faring as well as we are. So thank you for that. And the kudos go to the team for sure.
John, did you have good news to add?
No, I had the same things, but I also wanted to go back and proclaim Kim Youngman retiring. She's been a long time employee of ours, a loyal employee for many, many years. I don't know how many, but she's been a very effective person in the classroom. And she was on the consent agenda, but I couldn't get my speaker thing going.
Oh, okay.
Cinda? Yeah,
Yes.
are we going to share board liaison information tonight, or are we holding on that?
Oh,
It's not on the agenda, so I wasn't sure.
did I miss it? Oh, you said it was not.
It's not on there. So are we waiting? Because I just had some, but we can wait. It's not a big deal.
No, if you have some, go ahead.
Oh, okay, Mark got hold of me, just wanted to indicate that he had 2 teachers that he felt had gone above and beyond. And the first is Ashley Gerstner, who's just been demonstrating a lot of strong leadership abilities and just really coordinating a lot of the virtual schedules and pulling information and getting information from kids and bringing it back to colleagues and collating it and making it make sense as to how things should go on. So it's kind of an ongoing process that really seems to be making a big difference for both the student and teachers. So that was nice to hear. And it's kind of neat to think she's one of our own. She graduated with us and here she is back as a teacher. So that's kind of nice to see. And the second one is Andrea Bazin. I hope I'm saying that right. Bazin. She actually is another really doing some nice things. She started out as a reading intervention teacher and then has stepped it up and agreed to take on to add a hybrid group. And then there was another issue and a teacher had to take some emergency leave and she agreed to then cover that teacher. And she's doing a virtual group on top of that. So she's hitting all 3. She's definitely an all-star. So she's doing virtual, hybrid, and her own intervention groups that she hasn't let go either. So I think we're definitely getting some mileage out of her.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. And that is all good news.
Yeah.
Tina, what was Ashley's last name?
Gerstner.
Okay, great. If we had had time, we thought we might talk a little bit about some information that we might want to share from NYSBA. But considering that we have 2 board members who could not be here tonight, we'll have to pass on that. Because I know I said I had something to share and I know Jason really wanted to hear it. So we will wait and I will send out an email and we'll see what we can do about finding a time, I guess. I was hoping we could do it tonight, but without Jason and Izetta here to help figure out that time, we can't do it. So I'll send an email and we'll figure it out, okay? At this time, Michael, would this be correct that we need to go into executive session?
Well, that's entirely up to you. We could do that if you want to discuss it. We had slated December to have that conversation. I don't know if you saw the message from earlier or not, that that's the piece of evidence or the piece of information that you're reviewing that pertains to a particular individual was, you know, going to be brought up in December.
Okay, then we'll leave it for that.
That way you also have the entire board present as well.
Right, which is important.
Right.
All right. Well, that completes our agenda. There being none, Paul?
Can I put a plug in for the high school as the liaison?
Oh, sure.
Tina got to, so I thought, well, that'd be
Yes,
fair.
of course you get to.
Well, so I've attended the high school and I've tried to greet every group. In other words, the Monday, Tuesday attendees and front door, back door. Okay. And then the Thursday, Friday, front door, back door. And I'm kind of pleased to report that and I think this maybe is because they drive or something's different about it, but usually the students that come in the front, I think have taken the bus and they kind of come through that door and they're head down and they're headed for their classroom. The ones that come in the back door are much more sociable and they seem to be more alive and more awake. So I thought it was kind of cool. But again, overall, well-dressed, very well behaved, nothing but good reports.
Great, wonderful to hear. Great. All right, I think that completes our agenda then. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. John and Linda, any discussion? All in favor? Raise your hand. That is approved by unanimous consent. So thank you and good night. And see you in December.
Thank
Because we
you.
don't have a second meeting because of Thanksgiving, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Good night, all.
Good night.
everyone.